They're eating. I can talk now. Hello and welcome to my studio. My name is Rayleigh. I'm an artist in Central Texas, and today I'm here planning to finish a print. In my last video, I was working on this little painting of a painted bunting. It's for a set of paintings I'm doing for an upcoming show. But in truth, my favorite media to work with is relief printmaking. If you've ever done linoleum printing or woodblock printing, you know what I'm talking about. It's like carving, it's like making a little stamp. It's like making a fancy little stamp. You may have heard of linoleum printing or woodblock printing before, but my favorite method of relief printing is wood engraving. Today, I have a wood engraving that's several months in the making that I'm hoping to complete. It's this guy. This is the carved block from the print. As of today, I've done most of the work for the print. As you can see, I've carved the block and I've printed the block. So here's it printed on paper. The block is a little bit fuzzier and harder to see, but here's the finished print on paper. Usually when you're doing a print, that's really all you'd do. You'd print this on paper, you'd print your edition. Here's my stack of these prints. So I haven't actually counted these, but say these are all more or less perfect. This could be like an edition of 40 prints, and then each one's labeled 1 out of 40, 2 out of 40, etc., etc. Each of these is an original in itself because it's pulled directly from this block. I would normally, with a print like this, once it's printed on the paper, I would sign it and edition it. But with this print, I'm wanting to do something different with it. I'm wanting to incorporate a wheat penny in each of these prints. So, little tiny penny, and yes, I mean the physical penny. I ordered about 400 wheat pennies from a guy on Etsy, and I prepared each one. And today I'm gonna try to figure out how to attach it to the prints. I'm a little nervous because the way I'm planning to affix the pennies to the prints is gonna involve a little bit of destruction. I think in my head I have an image where you have the print and then there's a hole cut out into the paper and the penny is kind of floating in it. So I'm wanting to figure out how to do that. I don't know if it'll be actually floating. I might have to affix it to a different media behind it, but ultimately my plan is to go through. I have one of these little circle cutters. I'm going to be physically cutting a hole into each of these prints, which is really nerve-wracking because if this doesn't go well, then clearly I might destroy all of these. I might destroy this edition, which hypothetically I could reprint them. I still have the block. The block is still in perfect shape, but I would love to not have to do that. I have a rough idea of how I'm going to get the pennies in there and how I'm gonna attach everything together, but it is still gonna be a lot of improvisation today to get it to work. I'm hoping I don't ruin this entire set of prints, but by making this video, I'm hoping that if I do, I'll at least have a video record to show that at one point they were perfect and gorgeous, and I'll have something interesting to show for it if I do ruin these. So I'm gonna work on this. So sit back, grab your tasty beverage of choice, and join me while I finish this edition and talk about the wood engraving process and just what this print is, because I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with the image, and I feel like this print itself deserves a video of its own, and so I'd like everyone to hear what I have to say about it. guys, I'm back. I didn't expect to be talking to the camera again so soon. So, in the last clip, you probably saw what looked like an absolute train wreck. Like I said, it was going to be a lot of improvising today. I had a little bit of a plan. Immediately, the plan didn't follow through. So, if you saw me trying to use the little circle guy, I didn't think about the size of the circle I'd wanted when I was ordering this, and this is way too big of a circle. So it just was not gonna work with cutting into that I didn't want a circle that big, you know? That was gonna take up way too much of the paper. It just would not look good. I'm so happy I worked on scrap paper. I am prone to just jump into projects like this and just figure it out as I go. And I did fully intend to just jump into cutting these up. And I'm so happy I didn't. Here's my first piece of scrap paper. It went terribly. It was horrible. The circle cutter thing barely even worked. Might have worked fine on thinner paper and if I had a steadier hand, but even then the circle was too big, so it was a no-go. Luckily, I have this little paper thing I use for making earrings out of scrap prints. What I ended up getting with working through it was ripping the paper. Ripping the paper ended up being the best way to go. So I was wetting the paper with a spray bottle and then pressing it onto here and just kind of ripping through it. And that ended up kind of around here. I don't like it. This is about what I had imagined it looking like. I do prefer how it looks ripped versus how it would have looked cut, just because of the deckled edges on the outside. I feel like this is a good mirror to that. But I don't think it's not doing what I wanted it to do. You can kind of see it's got a cool mat and it does look like the pennies kind of floating there. It was way too distracting. In my head, it wasn't going to take up so much space. It wasn't going to be so in front. I like how it turned out. I don't like how it's working with the print. The whole it's taking away from the print too much. I feel like this makes it feel more like it's part of the print, which is what I want it to feel like. So I backtracked a little bit and I went back to my very original plan. My original plan was kind of just to glue the pennies on. I had someone suggest putting a hole in it, and I loved the idea when it was suggested, and it was like, oh, that's going to be so cool. But in actuality, it just didn't work out. I ended up finding this, it's like Gorilla double-sided tape stuff. It's a couple millimeters thick. And one of the reasons I liked the idea of having a hole is because I am worried about the copper patinaing and, kind of like leaching into the paper. So having it with the hole in the middle would have given some space between the copper and the paper, so it wouldn't have discolored the paper so quickly. But with this stuff, it's going to do kind of the same thing. I don't know if you could really see it in the film, but it has that space in between the penny and the paper. So even if the penny does start to patina on the print, it shouldn't spread to the paper itself. It might spread a little bit into this Gorilla Glue sticky stuff. So yeah. I'm probably going to next, I guess, prep little squares of this would probably be the best next step, so I can just grab them and work through them. And then I'll be able to start gluing them onto the prints. last video where I did a gouache painting of a bird, you might have noticed how quickly I was able to work through a small study like that. I had finished the entirety of the painting within a few hours. Wood engraving, on the other hand, takes much more time for me. That's honestly part of why I love the medium, though. Where that painting took me a few hours to complete, a wood engraving of the same size could take me a week of 8+ hour days minimum. My engravings have a lot more planning involved and a lot more attention to fine details. That brings me to what I'm working on in this video. The piece I'm working on today has been in the works on and off since last September, so just about 8 months. The idea came to me on the drive home from an art show in Colorado while listening to the discography from the Blasting Company, the band behind the soundtrack from Over the Garden Wall. The specific song that sparked the piece was called Coal-Eyed Birds, from the band's collaboration with Legends of Evantris. Nerdy, I know. The concept for the print popped into my head, and this was the thumbnail sketch I was able to get down in the moment. It doesn't feel too different from the final print in my eyes. This print was one of those ideas that just gets stuck in my head and lingers in the back of my mind until the project is done. The concept was influenced pretty obviously by the song and album cover, plus a lot of the moods I feel when listening to the band or watching Over the Garden Wall. In the art book for the show, Sean Edgar describes the world of Over the Garden Wall as a, quote, haunting dream world that was a cross between Germanic fairy tale and colonial America. This description lines up pretty well with the vibe of the Blasting Company as a band, and I like to think that it can be seen in the print I made as well. That, plus my own biases, sense of mortality, and a desire to tell a unique story are all influences I used in this piece. I started developing the concept for the print soon after I got home from the art show. It took me most of October and November to work through the final composition, gather references, and carve the design into the maple block. Once the block was carved, it sat untouched until March. I knew I wanted to print this onto a thick paper, something I'm not able to do at my home studio. In March, though, I spent a few weeks up in Vermont at Vermont Studio Centers, where I had a private studio and access to a shared printing studio. Crucially, the shared printing studio had a large cylinder press where I could set the pressure for printing and do what's impossible with my home setup. While I was there, I was finally able to print this block onto the paper that I wanted. From the beginning, I knew I wanted to incorporate a wheat penny into this print somehow. And not just the illustration of one, but a physical penny. I was able to source a bunch of them from a guy on Etsy, and from those I picked out my favorites. Looking through these pennies that ranged from 1909 to 1958, it was amazing how much character and story each one seemed to have. Most of what I was searching for in the pennies was legibility. I planned to display the text side of the penny, and I wanted them to be easily identifiable. However, as I rummaged, I realized that there were some cases where the character and illegibility of the coin actually added more than if I had gone with the most pristine ones. A couple of the pennies were chosen precisely because of how tarnished they had become. One because it had physical damage to one of its edges, and some because they had been starting to show signs of a green patina. My favorites were from 1943, when pennies were made from zinc-coated steel in order to conserve copper during World War II. Once I had chosen the coins that I felt had the right mixes of legibility and character, I coated them in a satin acrylic varnish to prevent any tarnishing or patina from spreading to the paper once the coins were affixed. I've had several people ask me what this print is about, and honestly, it doesn't even feel like I know. The image for this print came to me almost all at once, and the final piece isn't too far removed from what I had imagined in the beginning, down to the penny affixed to the paper. Of course, I recognize a few motifs from my own knowledge and experiences, like those references to Over the Garden Wall and that colonial American feeling, as well as seeing something of a reflection of my own feelings about mortality and individuality. But at the most basic level, this print feels like it's part of a story that's not my place to know or tell. I could probably sit down with it and try to analyze the choices I made in the making, but I don't think I should. This print is a snapshot of something unknown happening, and all we know is what's in front of us. What came before, what comes after, and what any of it really means isn't for any of us to know, including myself. Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed seeing this print come to completion after 8 months in progress. It's really nice to finally have this print done. If you did enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe. I'm excited to see how quickly we can get this little channel to grow. If you do want to get your hands on, if you want to get your hands on a print from this edition, I do already have them available in my online store. I also have a Patreon if you want to subscribe and get discounted patches, stickers, and prints. You can also join my free email newsletter if you want to see me in your box. Thanks again for watching me work on this print. I hope your local birds are singing and your day only gets better from here. I'll see y'all next time.